All right, we've got Todd and we've got everybody else here. So I'm going to call us to order at 6:01 p.m. Let me share my screen. All right, you should be seeing the slides. Just the quick Zoom rules really quick will allow public comment during periods in item 4, 9, 10, 11. You'll have 3 minutes to publicly comment. You can either raise your hand in the participants section or you can comment in the chat that you'd like to make a comment, and we'll do that. I think Bruce is the only phone number that we have today, so we don't have to necessarily deal with that, but if we get anyone else, we will run them through those directions. So we will now go into the flag salute, and I'll lead us off. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, we'll move into roll call.
Councilmember Arth.
Here.
Councilmember Bryan. Oh, he's muted.
Yeah.
Councilmember Bryan.
Oop. Sorry, I just muted him after you undid him. Sorry, that's my bad. Go ahead, Matthew. Sorry.
I'm present. Thank you.
Councilmember Deutsch.
Here.
Mayor Lucchese.
Present. Thank you, Wendy. All right, we do not have any special presentations tonight, so we'll move directly into general public comment. This is time for members of the public to address the council on an issue that is not on our agenda or is on our consent agenda, which you can see we only have a check register for October 31st through November 13th, 2020. So you can either comment on that check register or items not on the agenda. If you see things on the agenda that you'd like to comment on later, we will have public comment open for that, but this is for items not on the agenda. So again, you can go to the participants option and you can raise your hand, or you can just go into the chat function and let me know that you'd like to make a comment. And we haven't received any emails, have we, Wendy?
No, we have not.
Okay, great. And I don't see anybody wanting to jump up and give a comment in general public comment. So I'll move us on to staff and member comments. And I will, Blake, go for it.
Hey, all right. Thanks, guys. My comment is really, or a report is, for those that knew Karen Lobeck, she actually passed away recently. So just want to make that, and
That's a shame.
Yeah. Yep. And so she worked for the city, and I just like to say that actually it kind of relates to the visioning exercise you're going to do later, and share one story that kind of showcases our wonderful community. And so it was that this one morning, shortly after Karen's diagnosis, there was these two high school girls that came into the office. And actually, like city staff, a bunch of us, we were in that main room, and the two girls came in and they handed Karen a big basket of goodies, and it was a super special moment. And it just so happened that an anonymous group of Dunsmuirians just decided to band together and give this gift. So I know it really meant a lot to Karen, and I just wanted to share that in terms of the visioning and just show that we have a great community out there. And then I'll just in the spirit of giving thanks, just give thanks to our wonderful community, and thank you for Karen for doing a great job. And just know that your city family loves you very much.
Thank you so much, Blake. That's wonderful. Do you know if the family is having anything in relation to her passing?
I haven't heard yet. Yeah, I think it's difficult during this time, but if I hear anything, I'll definitely make it known.
Thank you. That'd be appreciated.
Sure.
All right, I'm going to move over to our city manager, Todd Uhas. Do you have any updates or comments for us today?
Hey guys, not really anything
that I haven't brought up at the last meeting. A lot of things in progress. I just want to make sure that everybody knows I will be out of the office all next week, and I'm going to try to turn my phone off, check it periodically, but just FYI for everybody.
All right, thank you. Any questions for City Manager Uhas on his report or other items? All right, seeing none, I'll move us into council member comments. Councilmember Deutsch, would you like to start us off today?
Thank you, ma'am. First of all, I'd like to point out Big Dave wasn't able to make it tonight, and he did want to let everyone know that he was planning on putting up Christmas decorations in town this coming weekend so that we could have it for Thanksgiving and lift the spirits up a little bit. As far as Karen's going, that really hurt a lot to hear that. On the other hand, I know that she was suffering a lot, so in a sense, I hope she's in a better place, and she really was a special person, as are all the people that work for us. Finally, the one thing I've been looking into, and it turns out that we're kind of in a catch-22 right now. I've thought that the Great Plates program that the California state had enacted would be a really great thing for our small community, both with the economic development standpoint of providing jobs for people in our restaurants, and then on the other end of it, the number of people who are in food distress right now seem like a really good program. And I've been trying to figure out why we haven't seen or heard much about it up here. And it turns out that the set of requirements that are involved to manage the program really kind of preclude it happening in any kind of a small rural county like ours. It needs a city that has a large enough budget to be able to handle some uncertainty with when payments are going to come. It needs a staff that could look into and manage different things. And so I checked with the Office of Emergency Services. I talked with Adam Heilman, and he had basically, Eddie shared some information with me, and their analysis is that it's not really viable for us to be able to take part in that program. And if anyone's interested, I'll be glad to share that email and look at that. But what I'm trying to find, and this is kind of a long shot, but I'm trying to see if there isn't a way of working up the chain from our family resource centers up to a larger agency. I thought, first of all, the first five as one, but of course that's aimed mostly at children, which wouldn't really quite connect. But I'm hoping there might be some way for the state to come up with a way for smaller counties to be able to access this program and manage it. And I'm hoping to do that, and as soon as I find anything out, I'll let everybody know. So that's all my report, and I just hope that everybody stays safe. It's the scariest of all times we've faced before, and it requires everybody to be vigilant. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Council. Go ahead, City Manager Uhas.
Councilman Deutsch, did you want to bring up about Aetna, or you want to wait?
I'd rather just wait for the conversation, yeah.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. I'll move us on over to Councilmember Bryan.
I would just like to encourage everyone to take reasonable precautions and to say that, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I know it's a pretty dark time in terms of expectations for the next weeks and months, but that we will get through this. We're a strong, resilient community, and I look forward to that time. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And we'll move over to Councilmember Arth. Any comments for this evening?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, colleagues, members of the public. I want to express my gratitude to our new sheriff and his deputies, to Council Member Deutsch, to Council Member Keisler. We all gathered in the Dunsmuir Community Cemetery on November the 11th, 11/11, Veterans Day, and in his brief address, Councilmember Deutsch reminded us that there are 2 days where we honor those who fought for our country: Memorial Day for those who didn't make it, and Veterans Day for those who did but still bear the wounds of the wars they fought in. But thanks to the leadership of my colleagues, There's a new flag flying over the Dunsmuir Cemetery. We had a wonderful commemoration of Veterans Day, and I hope this is a down payment on what we do in the years ahead to honor our veterans. My second comment is obviously as we give thanks for the service of others, this is Thanksgiving season. Be happy, be safe. Finally, I think we need to stay proactive as we manage through the COVID pandemic. And my immediate thinking is, would it be wrong to erect signs at all the freeway on-ramps into Dunsmuir, encouraging whoever comes down those on-ramps to say, welcome to Dunsmuir, wear a mask. Thank you.
Thank you, yes.
Madam Mayor?
I did, go ahead, Councilmember Deutsch.
Thank you, ma'am. I just wanted to say, actually, I need to commend Councilmember Arth. It was his passion and forthwith pressure that led us to the cemetery on Veterans Day. And it's really his passion, and I respect that and salute him for that.
Right, yes, thank you. It looked like a very nice event. It was covered really well in the paper. So also thank you for the paper for covering that. All right, I did forget about Ben. So Ben, I'm gonna go unmute you for a sec. Do you have any updates for us today? Might not.
There we go. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. I was just going to report on the October statistics and then just give a brief update of some developments in the sheriff's office. I'll start off with the October statistics. For the city of Dunsmuir, we had 555 hours of patrol. We handled 211 calls for service, pulled 21 case numbers, excuse me, did 44 traffic-related stops, issued 15 citations, had 7 arrests, which resulted in 3 felony bookings and 10 misdemeanor bookings. Some of the arrest details: we had a misdemeanor arrest for possession of 2.7 grams of methamphetamine, and possession of drug paraphernalia, and a violation of the court order. We had a felony warrant arrest on Dunsmuir Avenue. We had 2 misdemeanor arrests for possession of drug paraphernalia on Oak Street. We also recovered 0.8 grams of heroin on that arrest, and misdemeanor transportation of narcotics and misdemeanor driving on a suspended license. There was also a felony violation of probation during those arrests as well, and this was all on Dunsmuir Avenue. We had a misdemeanor arrest for possession of drug paraphernalia, again on Dunsmuir Avenue, and then we had a misdemeanor arrest for domestic battery on Mont Airport Road. During the month of October, we had 1 vehicle burglary on Dunsmuir Avenue. We had 4 thefts that were on Dunsmuir Avenue, 2 on Sacramento Avenue, and 1 on Siskiyou Avenue. We had 1 auto theft on Siskiyou Avenue. The vehicle was recovered on that one. We had 2 assault and batteries, one on Sacramento Avenue, 1 on Dunsmuir Avenue, 10 domestic disturbances all over the place. We had 2 vandalisms, both on Dunsmuir Avenue, did 11 school checks, and had 10 disturbing the peace calls throughout the city. So before I move on, any questions or comments on that report for October?
Sergeant, I understand you had a change in your status. Could you inform us of that, please?
Well, I've actually had a couple of changes. Are you referring to my personal or professional life?
Well, I was thinking personal, but if you got some professional too, but I thought that's something that we could celebrate.
Well, I'll start out with my personal life. I got married about 5 weeks ago to a.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was Met a prosecutor out of the Bay Area, and we're actually, as we speak, packing up her house where she's going to be moving up and starting as a prosecutor for our district attorney's office here, hopefully in January.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So it's exciting times. On the business end of things, I needed to give an update on some developments in the sheriff's office. We are undergoing a restructuring, and that has involved a recent flurry of promotions, of which I was one of them. I promoted to lieutenant here a couple weeks ago. So how that's going to affect Dunsmuir is it's a management position. So I'm going to be heading up to work out of the Wairika headquarters office. I'll still be staying connected to the city of Dunsmuir, but the ultimate goal is to make a promotion to sergeant, and we will install a new sergeant for the city of Dunsmuir here in the coming weeks. So the area of management that I have is over all patrol operations for the county. So I will still have a connection to the city of Dunsmuir because that's going to fall under my area of management. I got to manage the contract cities and all patrol operations. So Dunsmuir is well within that area of responsibility. I will be staying in communication with the city manager and updating him on whatever progress that we make on finding my replacement. I did meet with the sheriff and the undersheriff and let them know that I think that this position for the city of Dunsmuir needs to be a hand-selected person that is going to just have the right personality, mentality, all those things. So we are taking a serious, long look at who we think would be the best fit for Dunsmuir, and I'm going to be very active in that decision-making process. So there will be some changes coming, but I can assure you that you will be getting a good replacement. And again, I will maintain some connection with everybody down here.
So,
Okay, well, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much for the update.
yeah,
I
I
believe
can-
we do have sorry, go ahead. City
Um,
Manager Uhas.
yeah, I just wanted to first congratulate Ben. I knew this was in the works for a while, and Ben and I have had a really relationship and great communication, and I'm just really happy that you've gotten this opportunity, and just look forward to your pick in Dunsmuir, hoping that we have the same kind of relationship with our local person down here. Thanks.
Thank you, Todd. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And we do have a question from Councilmember Arth. So Councilmember Arth, go ahead.
Well, of course, congratulations, Ben, on your achievements. You're more than worthy on both the domestic front and the professional front. I loved getting to meet Sheriff LaRue on Veterans Day and having him talk a little bit about his ties to the city of Dunsmuir.
Yeah.
So I have every confidence as we move forward that our partnership with the sheriff will continue. But as we move into the visioning exercise, and I hope you stay on for the rest of the meeting, the number one concern for the citizens of Dunsmuir, based on our small sample, is police protection. So as we vision the next 1 year,
Are you still
5
there, Peter?
years, huh?
Sorry, you dropped off there for a second, Peter.
So I'm just hoping that between Ben and the successor to Ben, we have an active participant in the vision and budgeting to make sure we have adequate protection in Dunsmuir. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Arth. Are there any other questions for Lieutenant Weststein now? Is that what it is?
Yes.
Lieutenant Weststein.
Can I,
All right,
can I
seeing
take a
none-
moment
oh.
just to add my congratulations?
Go ahead, Councilmember Deutsch.
I was just going to say, can I just take a short moment to add my congratulations? It's well deserved. I salute you, sir.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and we'll continue on. And I believe It's just Mila, so I'll be very quick. Similar to the other comments from my council members, we are into the purple tier for COVID restrictions. It is a difficult time to have to close down some of our businesses, especially indoor dining, when we're getting really cold and rainy and somewhat unpleasant weather. So I've been going around to a couple of businesses and trying to do that with my time. We're really open to hearing from businesses that may need support from the city, which includes relaxing of regulations. So similar to allowing street eating in the city spaces, we're hoping that if anyone has any creative ideas to get through the winter months, to definitely approach city staff or council members with those ideas so we can help everybody out in this time. There's definitely going to be, we're going to have to be very flexible with things and really try to be creative to keep our businesses open and keep everybody moving and paid, which is kind of the big deal here right now. Strongly urging people, I know it is the season to see family, but we're really strongly encouraged not to go to those family gatherings. That's where we're seeing a large amount of the COVID cases coming from. So if you're able to stay home and maybe Skype or Zoom or FaceTime with your family members, to do that rather than traveling to other locations. I understand it's very hard to do that. Most of my family's in the Midwest and I will not be seeing them this year, and I haven't seen them for quite some time. So I understand it's really difficult emotionally this time, and to definitely reach out to different organizations around the area for mental health purposes, and understand that even though we're quarantined in our homes, that you're not alone and that we're all kind of going through this together in different levels. So please just reach out to everybody, reach out to anyone that you know is living by themselves, maybe spend a little bit of time on the phone with them. You know, that's going to be really key to keeping everybody safe and keeping everybody's mental health in a good spot. So the other thing to just mention, we did get the information for the new children's park equipment. So we're going to put together the per capita grant application and hopefully have a resolution, an application ready to go for the next council meeting for council members to approve, which will be great to get that through. And we should be getting some new equipment next year in the next season. So that'll be something to look forward to into the spring. And I think that's really it for me today. Similar to what City Manager Uhas brought up, there's just a lot of things in the works that just need a little bit of constant updating, but not anything super big yet for delivery. Are there any other comments or questions tonight from council members or staff? All right, seeing none, I'm going to move us to committee reports. Do we have any committee reports for tonight?
We don't.
Okay, I will move us on to approval of the minutes. So tonight we have City Council regular meeting minutes from November 5th, 2020. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Arth, go ahead.
No.
Oh. Did you have your hand up for committee reports?
Oh, I did, because I know that both you and the Regional Water Action Group, I did not attend, but I saw the minutes and it didn't look like anything particularly notable, but I noticed you were at the meeting, as was our revenue officer.
It's been a while since our last meeting. I know there is a meeting tomorrow as well. There's not much to go on right now. We're just doing some paperwork for the grants that we were awarded through Prop 1 for the IRWIN projects. And I don't have an agenda in front of me for that meeting tomorrow, but I believe that meeting tomorrow starts at 11. I will be at that one, so if you can't make it, I should be able to cover. And I believe Blake is pretty good about making those as well. So yeah, there's nothing to report on that. We'll probably have a report on that for next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I move we approve the minutes for November 5th, 2020.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Councilmember Arth. Is there any discussion on the motion at hand? Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. Councilmember Deutsch.
Aye.
Councilmember Bryan.
Aye.
Councilmember Arth.
Aye.
Myself is an aye, and Councilmember Keisler is absent. So motion carries. Thank you. We'll now move on to our one consent agenda item, which is a check register for October 31st through November 13th, 2020. Any comments, questions, motions?
Move the consent agenda.
All right, there's a motion on the
Second.
consent agenda, second by Councilmember Deutsch. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. Councilmember Deutsch,
Aye.
Councilmember Bryan,
Aye.
Councilmember Councilmember Arth,
Aye.
Councilmember Keisler is absent. Myself is an aye. Consent agenda is approved. Public hearings, none. Old business. All right. So we can get into the meat of the meeting. Our first item up for old business is visioning for the city of Dunsmuir. I did put together a brief document for our discussion today, just what community visioning is, the visioning process we've taken so far, and some of the different pieces. And on the bottom of page 11 of the packets, there's a couple of discussion questions for us to mull over when we get to discussion in terms of what we would like to do to move forward. But I'm going to swing over to City Manager Uhas. Do you have anything to add to the report, or would you like me to just go to Councilmember Deutsch to talk about the Etna visioning?
Well, so a couple things. I think the way we really want to start this process off is to look at the results of the levels of importance of different issues here in the city, and then start with the baseline of what do we want as a vision statement for the community from the city council, and then that can be massaged as we get further into the process. And ultimately the idea is to once we move out of the worst part of the COVID phase and at least move back to orange, start a series of workshops. And I know Councilman Deutsch is going to touch on this, but very much like Etna, which he's going to talk about, and any of the visioning and charrette work that I've been involved in, it's really typically starting with the history of your community. What are the things that we want to play on that are real strengths for a community, and then engage in what's known as over a series of workshops, what's known as a SWOT analysis. And what is a SWOT analysis? A SWOT is an acronym that stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And so, in other words, threats to derailing our movement forward, and how do we plan to minimize those threats? So anyway, that's how I would kick that off, and how I see things moving forward. So Councilman Deutsch, if you'd like to add to that.
Thank you, and thank you, Madam Mayor, for this. What I wanted to kind of point out here is that for some time, we've been trying to get something called Building Dunsmuir's Future, which is something that was done in Etna back in 2018. It was a particular event that occurred on a particular day in April, the end of April, and they got together over 100 people, and they spent a whole lot of effort and a lot of process to get as many of the people to come out for this. And they had for a whole day people sitting around and kind of sharing their sense of vision of who they are, community, where they've been, just as Todd was mentioning. Now, that's something that I have been working on and was hoping we could try this year. Last year, the shutdown happened right when this would have happened. And when I was talking with Todd, I realized that, first of all, between the expertise we have with Todd, you, Madam Mayor, our planner, city planner, Rico Tinsman, you all have a tremendous amount of experience in how to run a very process-oriented look at visioning and priorities. And I think that's what Councilmember Arth has been looking for. I've been looking for that too. What I'd like to propose is that only that at the end of this process that you all would work through workshops, doing the things that you have done before, is that we look forward to, at the end of that process of workshops, of having a capstone event, which would be this Building Dunsmuir's Future event, which would be using the model that was created for Aetna by the whole Siskiyou Revitalization Network, in which everybody in that network right now is looking forward to Dunsmuir being the next one going through. So I'll leave it at this. All I wanted to make sure that we looked at was leaving to the experts how the workshops and everything go. I'm expecting to play any kind of a role in that, but looking forward to the part where afterwards, after this whole process, we kind of celebrate it. There's a big lunch. The Ford family will pay for that. This is all part of a process they're looking forward to doing. And so that's all I wanted to get into everyone's heads, that whatever we have as far as the standard process, that at the end, I'd like to have this community building. It's really focusing on getting people together and feeling a sense of community, bringing the people on board who have moved here over the years, along with the people who have been here forever. So thank you for giving me this moment. And other than that, I'll turn it back over to the normal process of planning for these workshops.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Deutsch. Councilmember Arth, do you have a question?
No, I have several things to say, but I want to make sure you and Todd have teed this up however you want to tee it up.
Yeah, let's do clarifying questions right now, then we'll take some public comment on this, and then we'll move into discussion. So if anybody has any clarifying questions, we definitely can use the Aetna model. It's much more intensive. I know the visioning process that we took in 19 was kind of to do with the resources that we had available to us, but I know that the Ford Foundation does do some grant dollars for this type of stuff, and that could be a possibility to expand this to be a little bit more comprehensive, which is great. So there's a lot of options that we have for tonight. So once we get to discussion, we can definitely look at all of that information. But any other questions before I open this up for public comment?
Madam Mayor, could we get your memo up on the screen, or we just have the agenda?
Sure. Well, I've got the, let's see. All right, can you see it?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, so here's what we're talking about in the agenda packet. I believe this is 11. It just kind of takes a look at, it's a general overview of what a community visioning is. It can take a lot of different routes in terms of workshopping. Like we said before, the process really is up to how in depth we want to get. In 2019, we had 94 responses out of approximately 1,650 people, which is our census numbers. The response rate was about 5.7%, which is for paper survey responses. Although that looks small to us, it's actually statistically significant. So that means that the feedback could be used as a representative sample for that. I did not take demographic questions. So I do not have the demographics of the people who took the survey, which could be something that if we do want to move forward with the survey, we could do. The addition, we can do online webinars that can be conducted to receive further feedback while we're in the COVID shutdowns. We could do another survey. We could do the in-person workshopping. I think the hardest part with going through the in-person workshopping is just working with the COVID restrictions and seeing how everything pans out with that. But if that's something we're working on to maybe do come March, April, they're talking about possibly having vaccines ready to go for people as soon as late January, early February. So we might be able to have a really good chance of starting this process in March, April of 2021. And that gives us some time to maybe take a look at the finances and what we would have to do to pay for those types of events. So we can definitely go back out for visioning survey responses or workshopping. We can use the current information that we have. We did get a wide variety of responses, and we can use that as at least kind of some information to start off from. And then, like I said before, there was the city ranking that was requested by the finance committee for different services, because that goes into the community promotions consideration. And so here is the ranking based on what everyone ranked the different categories we had on there. So those are there. 1 is most important, 12 is least important. For receiving city funds, I think that's really important to clarify that even though special events and city events are much lower on the scale, it doesn't necessarily mean they're not important to the general public. It was just what people considered the most important in terms of financing for us. So again, here are the discussion questions we'll talk about once we get to discussion. And I think we should, if you don't have any questions, I'll open this up for public comment.
Can I throw in
Go
a
ahead.
suggestion for this? You know, if we so choose to go back out, which I do think is a good idea, and we look at, you know, race and gender, socioeconomic class, and potentially where you live in the city, I think that would be very useful information. So we get a better sense by, you know, by area and by viewpoint. You know, whether we're hitting the mark and whether we're getting a proper N for something that's statistically valid.
Yeah. Okay. Are there any other questions before we go to public comment? Okay. So if anyone would like to make a public comment, now's your time. You can raise your hand or you can let me know in the chat and I can unmute you. And takers. All right, I'm not seeing anybody want to give public comment on this item, so we can move right into discussion. So I will open it, I will allow Councilmember Arth, why don't you lead us off since you have some points you want to discuss.
Well, first of all, thank you to my colleagues for getting this back on the agenda. When I was mayor in 2010, I led the city council to unanimously adopt Dunsmuir 2020, visioning out 10 years, what kind of community do we want to be? And that initiative was killed after the recall. With a significant number of citizens saying, we don't want to play. We don't want to vision our future. We're happy just the way things are. The city of Dunsmuir will not have a prosperous, sustainable future unless we plan for it. So with regard to the discussion points, are the results of the 2019 survey enough to move forward with a draft vision? My answer is no. It's a very small sample. The voice of business is silent. It's pre-COVID. So I would hope to join with the city manager's comments that I would favor a carefully done survey that would go out in the next 60 days by mail. And if you wanted to fill it out online through the city website, you could. But we need to go back out to the business community and the citizens to get a clear set of priorities before we do our draft vision. That sort of handles bullet number 2. Bullet number 3, I will say, as somebody that's actively involved in the business community in Dunsmuir, our Chamber of Commerce is by and large not very functional. The city's Economic Development Committee, by and large, is not very functional. I would like to add my friend David Clarno to this effort. I'd like to add my friend Mark and Londa Rowley to this effort. My point is the sustainability of Dunsmuir's business economy is extremely fragile, and with the purple status and the uncertainty of 2021, I'm not sure we have the luxury of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I think we need to reassure our citizens we're moving more quickly than that. We need to rebuild the business community more quickly than that. And in the months left I have serving the city on the council, I would like to make this one of my priorities. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Arth, do you think we should include a ranking question again? I didn't hear if you had touched on that point.
And this is where I would like the city to spend a little bit of money for you and the city manager to pick a professional that will support us in designing the survey, in conducting the community meetings, so that for the Tim Holtz of the world that say, I've done this 5 times, Peter, I'm not going to do it again because it never comes of anything, that we have a different outcome this time.
Okay, I'm going to go back to my question, which was, how do you feel about including a ranking question again?
Including
So
which
for
question?
The ranking. So the ranking of services.
I think that's totally useful. I would lead
Okay.
with that.
Okay, thank
Can I
you.
add something to this?
Go ahead.
Tell me if you want me to wait. I think that the ranking is important. Going back out about that, especially since we've been through a pretty bruising election locally. But what we do need to do, I believe, is come up with some survey questions that tease out some key issues. For instance, if we are attracting new businesses, are you willing to walk additional blocks because there will be less parking? What level of gentrification is acceptable to you, or would you rather keep things as the status quo? There are a lot of ways to ask these same questions, and I'm very well versed with my background in statistics of writing questions from 3 or 4 different perspectives to see if they're answered in the same way by the same respondent. And I think we need to start teasing out what's our comfort level, what's our breaking point.
What I love about that, Todd, is I don't know where the issue came from, but what does the city think about parking meters?
I think parking meters, actually muni meters, are even better because they better track time, and you don't have to have coins in your pocket. You can use coins or you can use a credit card, and it covers 6 to 8 spaces at a time.
Yeah, those are much cheaper in terms of infrastructure cost. Having to put a meter out to every slot is just really expensive.
Brutal.
Yeah, there's a lot of options for that. But going back to visioning,
and there's a lot of franchising opportunities with companies like that to take a cut of what you charge for your parking in order to put the infrastructure in the first place.
So as beautiful as discussing parking specifically is, I'm going to move us back to visioning. Peter, is this a discussion item on the visioning session or parking?
Not on parking. It's extremely important to me, as I mentioned at the last meeting, that the city of Dunsmuir begin to pursue renewable energy options. It's extremely important to me that the city, to remain viable, embraces ubiquitous broadband in our community. And I have to believe a majority of citizens and businesses will agree with me, but if we need to add those questions, if I'm wrong, I'm happy to be wrong. But we need to find out if the community cares about those sorts of sustainability issues.
All right. So again, getting a little bit into the weeds, because if we go forward, it sounds like we'll go forward with some kind of process. It will come back to council and there will be other discussions about specific topic items and surveys. So I don't want to necessarily get into that much detail tonight. I just would like to get through the bullet points so that we have information to move forward. So I'm going to move us on to Councilmember Bryan. Do you have any discussion on this item?
I guess I'd just say generally, as much as I'm deeply in favor of this taking place, with the situation fast evolving right now, I think I'm in favor of, one, having professional help and guidance and really having a meaningful document that combines where we're actually at with a roadmap to where we can get, in terms of the visioning. But, in terms of funding, if that's expensive, I think we're better off to have a slow, thorough process than something quick that's just kind of a dream document that people haven't really bought into on a community level.
Yeah.
Because,
Okay.
the best survey in the world that we could write, in our opinion, if we haven't done the legwork to make it something that people will respond to. Although I was very pleased with the survey results last time and the number of them. And I think it's been very helpful. Just that one survey, I think, has been very helpful to the city in terms of what direction we'd like to go. So, but then again, if we make a long survey as part of this, I don't know who's going to sit down for a 10-page survey on it. We have to kind of, well, getting people to come together and focus on that during this time might be a bit of a challenge, depending on the timing we were thinking of.
So,
Yeah, I think, go ahead.
a couple things. We have groups that we can turn to. Again, I've got experience doing these things. It's kind of, old hat in a lot of ways, but does it mean people can do it better than I can? Yeah. There are groups like Veritas that can do things pretty cheap on the fly. There also is, if they're still still around, given the Trump administration, there is the EPA's Urban and Economic Development Division that when I worked there, we did a lot of work with communities and pro bono work with people like Richard Florida, Andres Duani, and a whole bunch of other folks to go out to small communities like ours, where they would come out, take a couple days, take photos of that community, and part of the team that was funded on federal dollars would then sketch up or come up with photos from communities very much like ours that made the jump to a particular direction, a couple different options for where the community could go from based on talking to the residents, and then presenting kind of before and after photos and charrette drawings, and then leaving it with the community to with some creative juices flowing on what they want to see. But this is just pretty standard stuff, and there are people that will do this that they can do it on the cheap, and I think with Rico, Juliana, and myself, we could also pull something off that's pretty solid as well.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a lot of creative solutions, and I think to Councilmember Bryan's point, yeah, I agree. A lot of the information we want to glean, again, trying not to get too much in the weeds, it will have to be a longer multi-method process.
Yes.
Because it's gonna have to include a lot of different types of ways to contribute. Because like I said, even though you think a 5.7% response rate for a paper survey is not enough, that's actually really good in terms of paper surveys, because people have busy lives. They maybe don't trust it or things like that, which is why you integrate different methods of contribution. And even going to an online format doesn't necessarily increase your percentage of responses that much. Surveys are just not particularly fun. Workshopping does tend to get you better quality information. But again, we're working with a very different time of public engagement. But there's definitely a lot of cool stuff coming out that we can still be COVID compliant and get a lot of good input. So Councilmember Deutsch, I'm gonna let you discuss, and then I'll round back to Peter. Councilmember Arth.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. The first thing I would say is that as far as getting outside help, I really consider the team we have as being pretty special. When you look across the board, 3 people with all their expertise, I think if we bought them a dinner and gave them a whiteboard, they could probably sketch out some really good stuff. So that's my general idea on where we look for support on this. As far as the results of the 2019 survey, I do not believe they're enough. And the reason I believe that is that when you look at the idea of visioning, on one hand, there is the collection of data and information. And statistically, you could say that our response rate is good. But if you look at it from the other end, what is the action that comes out of that? What does that spawn in terms of changes and new efforts and initiatives? And that's where the thing I was talking about before, the Building Dunsmuir's Future, is really aimed at taking the vision that maybe has been stoked up over a survey and maybe a workshop or two, and then saying, okay, we're going to get together as a city, we're going to look across the table and see different people from different times and how they've come here and where they're from. And that's where you take that and move it towards action. And that's why I'm really focused on making sure that whatever we do as far as surveys or workshops, that we look at having that support at the end. As far as the survey for visioning information, I think the key there is making this an event itself, spending time ahead of time with social media, something in the newspaper, flyers around town, whatever it takes, to let people know, hey, something's going to be in the mail, it's going to be important, this is big, take a few moments, we really want to hear from you, so it's not just another piece of mail. And as far as the ranking questions, I think that's a great place there. Finally, I would like to hear over the course of this who the people are and what they believe. And so I'm really looking forward to the expertise that Todd and Juliana and Rico can bring. Those are my comments. Oh, by the way, I will say that right now there is instability in the chamber, and I'm looking at ways of addressing that. But for right now, that is kind of an organization that's going to need to get some support going forward. And I don't mean necessarily financial, but just support in terms of nurturing that organization. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Deutsch. Councilmember Arth, you had your hand up.
Yes, simply to build a little bit on Councilmember Deutsch's point about support. Obviously, this discussion is going on from one end of California to the other. Would we rather be serving a large city or a small city? I don't know, but we are members of the League of California Cities. And over the years, I've found them to be a very good resource for essential free support in the sort of effort we're talking about. And the other area is Lola. All of the cities in southern Siskiyou County are trying to imagine a sustainable future in the age of COVID. I think we have more of a regional economy than a strictly local economy. And the more we can work together with our colleagues to not reinvent the wheel, but to come up with common strategies and values. We all pay community funds to Opportunity Siskiyou. They should be a player in this. But I do think as a region in a city, we need to raise our game beyond what we've seen in the last 10 to 15 years. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So we've gone around the table. I'm just going to bring up some general things. It sounds like we would like to go out for another visioning process that's a little bit more involved and has multiple methods. I have notes that we'd like questions and information on demographics of the individuals contributing, business information, location of the people who are contributing and where they're at in the city, just to see if there's some discrepancies. I would assume most of that comment, City Manager Uhas, is in relation to people in North Dunsmuir versus South Dunsmuir, because it is definitely different needs from both sides of the bridge. And then we would like to include kind of a ranking question again to keep that. My personal opinion about, who's going to do it and what, looking at the time restraints, looking at, the resources that we have, I think definitely going and working with the Ford Foundation or another granting agency to hire us a contractor would be better. I think the reason for that being, I think from our discussion, this needs to be a very involved process. I have a day job. although my day job is doing stuff like this, it does take a lot of effort and time to really do this right. And that's what I would like to do. I like doing things well. Let's not have to go back through that. And I think our last attempt was a good effort. And I think it got us some good information for making decisions in terms of the budget at the time. But I think it definitely could have gone, there were definitely things that I thought could have been done better. It's just, my lack of time and the city's lack of financial resources to be able to do that. So I'm going to take this and work with City Manager Uhas on a couple of solutions for this. But overall, the general consensus that I get is that we would like to move forward with a thorough visioning process. I don't know how quickly we can get things out, Councilmember Arth, because I want to make sure that everything is planned out really well. And I can send over the Aetna documents that Councilmember Deutsch shared with City Manager Uhas, and you can kind of take a look at how long that process took to do a good job. But it is a multi-month thing to be able to do this very comprehensively and touch on the multitude of topics we want to ask about. So this will definitely come back to us as we move through this process. Are there any other comments that people would like to make in closing before we move to the next item?
Do you need a motion as far as the outside help, or do you and Todd want to come back with a proposal?
No, I think we'll come back with the proposal. I think right now we've got general consensus that everyone would like to move forward. So we'll kind of sit down and talk about that and bring back some suggestions for how to do that.
Thank you very much for putting this item on the agenda and the new beginning.
Thank you. Any other comments? Otherwise, I will move us to our next item. All right, seeing none, I'm going to move us to old business item B, which is approval of the 2021 schedule for regular meetings for the city of Dunsmuir. Wendy, would you like to chime in on this item?
There's nothing really to explain. Wait, there's nothing really to explain there.
Pretty straightforward. So I have the list of dates, which is basically the first and third Thursday of every month. Are there any Thursdays that fall on a holiday that we need to discuss? Nope, it doesn't look like it, because usually it's November that has the Thursday holidays. Otherwise,
I move we approve the, oh, we have to wait for comment, yeah.
Yeah, so anybody have any questions about this?
My only question is, when do we certify the election? When do we pick the mayor?
That'll probably be at the next meeting. I think the clerk's office is saying they should have stuff ready to go by the end of this month for certification. So that would be at either the first, let me see, that would be either the December 3rd or the December 17th meeting, depending on when those get certified by the county clerk. That's basically just what we're working on.
I do think we need to have a discussion about the committee structure for 2021. And obviously, committee meetings play off of city council meetings. We've discovered that as the finance committee, but that lays a hit. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions before I open this for public comment? Seeing none, is there any public comment on the proposed 2021 regular city council meetings? All right, seeing none, we'll move into discussion. Councilmember Deutsch.
I move that we adopt the proposal. I move that we adopt the proposed calendar.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second that. I'll claim that. I don't get a lot because I wait.
Go ahead. Go for it.
That. Thank you. Yeah. All right.
Congratulations.
Any other? Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments on the motion at hand? Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. Councilmember Deutsch.
Aye.
Councilmember Bryan.
Aye.
Councilmember Arth.
Aye.
And myself is an aye. Motion carries. So that is the end of our old business, and we do not have any new business. And that just basically moves us into future agenda items. So as I mentioned before, our December meetings, depending on when the county clerk certifies the election, we will have the election approvals and mayoral appointments at that meeting. So that'll either be the first meeting in December or the second. We also have the per capita grant for Children's Park that needs to be approved in the next month. Councilmember Arth.
I am still, Madam Mayor, on historic district governance. And, I'm sorry that Council Member Big Dave is not with us tonight, but both he and I humbly ask that historic district governance go back on the agenda under the protocols, with the notion in 2014, the city council on a unanimous basis said they wanted to have a 5-member oversight commission or group for the historic district. And others could say why it didn't happen, but that unanimous action was never repealed. And I simply wonder why the city is not following through with the commitment it made for more active oversight of the historic district. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we've had that on the list and we just haven't had time to work on that to bring it back in a meaningful way. So are there any other future agenda items? We will be bringing back visioning as well as we get that done. Seeing no other future agenda items, that'll move us into adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Here, here.
All right, there's a motion
I
to
wanted to see how
adjourn.
long we'd go. I'll second.
Okay, motion to adjourn by Councilmember Art, second by Councilmember Deutsch. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstentions?
Thank you.
All right, we are adjourned for today. Thank you everyone who tuned in. And if you need any information
job.
from the meeting tonight, please contact Wendy Perkins or Todd Uhas at City Hall. Oh, and I did forget, just a quick announcement to everybody on the call. City Hall is to in-person meetings and for in-person activities. So if you need anything from City Hall, please call ahead and arrange that with city staff or go on the website for information. So just that quick announcement. All right. Thank you, everybody, and have a safe holiday.
Thank you.
Aye.
Likewise.